Healed mind therapy is a holistic approach to therapy by involving three main components. So we have the how to ground the body, so our mindfulness practices, our grounding practices. We have our cognitive behavioral therapy, so shifting the thoughts to have effect on the emotions. And then the final piece is the philosophy. And it's also where we find spirituality. In this model, spirituality is a component that we look through. Now, sometimes this is overlooked in therapy because I'm a registered nurse, and this is actually part of a nursing model is to have spirituality as a focus. It is incorporated into therapy. Now, if there's somebody that does not even want to go there, we don't go there. But most people are open to at least exploring what their spiritual beliefs are. The reason this is important is when we have a spiritual perspective, in particular, the meaning of our life and suffering. Why are you here? Why are you suffering? And you have a spiritual perspective on that, it allows us to shift the CBT thoughts to a place that we can go much, much further than when we don't have that. So I can help you to shift your thought and say, oh, that person's really hurting and doesn't know what to do. And that's why that happened. And that's why that they behaved that way. But how do I help you to find peace in the suicide of a child or the death of, an infant or bombings or in war? How can you find that there's a thought that's going to bring you peace? You can't without a spiritual perspective. So when you're able to pull yourself back from this day-to-day world and this identification with the body, that's when you're able to find peace and surrender into something greater. And this is why spirituality is a key component to exceptional mental health. Okay. Now, what you believe is less important. So the actual religion is less important. It's the core of spirituality, which is this idea that we're not separate, we're all equal, and that there's meaning and purpose to our life and suffering. That's the key that we need to be able to have. Now, without this, like I said, you can really get stuck on some of the things that happen in your life and not understand why does bad things happen to good people, right? But when we have a spiritual perspective that goes a little bit further, then we're able to build from there. So because this is a video, we're not actually in therapy. I'm going to give you an example of what I would do in therapy to help you to explore what your belief systems are. And if I'm speaking in a way or I'm bringing up topics that are making you feel uncomfortable or aren't for you, feel free to skip ahead or even end this video at any time that it's not for you. This isn't for everybody, but if it is for you and you're being pulled into it, then continue to follow. So one of the first things I ask clients is, what are you? Are you a body or are you consciousness? Are you a soul or spirit or are you this form? So if you have spiritual beliefs already, you might have a thought that there's a God or an entity or there's an energy that's greater than you that you may or may not be an aspect of. So if we were to look at different scriptures, most of the scriptures are very much in alignment with we are created in the image of God, or that we are from God, that we are made in the image is probably the most common reference, but it's this idea of we are from what is the all. So like there's energy and then we're an aspect of it, or there's consciousness and we are an aspect of it, or we're the same as it, not separate from it, but not at the same time, not it as well. So a Hermetic philosophy point would be the all is in the all, but the all is not the all. Therefore, I know that sounds complicated, but therefore the all, so we'll say the all is God. So every individual consciousness is part of what the whole is, but the individual consciousness is not the whole. So that's why you'd say not say I am God, but you're not separate from God. Now, perhaps in another level of mysticism, we could say that we can achieve the level of like Christ's mind or Buddha mind, or that higher level of consciousness that knows itself not separate from God. That would be the experience that Jesus would have had of I and my Father are one, but that's like a higher level. For the purpose of what we're talking about is we're an aspect of an energy. So if God or source or consciousness is energy, and we are also energy, are we a body? Right. And what is energy? It cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. So this is our laws of physics. This would entail that perhaps we're not the body. We're not the body. We are consciousness, we are spirit. So if that's resonates for you, then that means you're a spiritual person. If you think that you're more than just a body that lives for this short time and dies and ceases to exist. And one of the reasons people believe that, there's many reasons why people believe that, but there's an intuition that we're more than just the body. If you study near-death experiences, that can give you a little bit of guidance towards that. Reincarnation stories can also help with that. Even just looking at times in your life where you've met people and you had an instant knowing or comfort with them that you couldn't explain, or personality traits that you see in yourself or in children that you know that weren't learned by anything that had happened in this life, whether it's fear of water or really, really tidy, really tidy child. I'm not that tidy. I know she didn't learn it, right? In this period. So being able to open our mind to think, okay, maybe we existed prior and maybe we'll exist post this lifetime. And perhaps death isn't real. Maybe death is the illusion and our consciousness is the actual reality. And we're here to learn and to grow and to evolve. So what is the point of life? To evolve consciousness, to reach a state of mind where we are perfect love. And this fits into all the religions. So to become the most merciful or to become like the most merciful, that's, the true believer in Islam, or to become Christ-like um, in Christianity, the Buddha, to have the Buddha mind, right? For the return. Um, these are all um, ideas of we are called to a higher calling or a form of death and resurrection. In Islam, it would be like having the night prayer and then having the dawn, opposed to like having those 5 prayers in a day. Think of a day as a lifetime. So when we look at our scripture symbolically instead of literally, it all starts to make sense as well. I feel like I'm going a little bit off track. But I guess the key here is finding out, deciding, are you a body or are you more than a body? What is the meaning of your life and suffering? Do you believe you're here to evolve? And if you are, then this next piece is to ask yourself, do you believe in reincarnation? So reincarnation in the sense that we keep getting human lives to evolve consciousness. And this is why you might meet someone that's much younger than you, that's much wiser, that seems like they could have more experience and more innate knowledge, or why we're all equal, even though people are at different stages. Why myself, who's not a crystal meth user, is equal to somebody who's homeless and a crystal meth user. When we see that we're all created exactly the same, but we're at different points of our path towards this spiritual awakening or this return to God or return to higher consciousness or the capacity to be love in Christ in the world or Buddha in the world or whatever you want to call it, we're all in different points in this path. And that's why it looks like we're different, but in truth, we're not. Some of us are just a few more steps ahead. When we see it that way, then we can really know that there's equality in all of humanity. Now, when it comes to the concepts of reincarnation, reincarnation is not a critical piece to have good mental health. You do not need to believe in reincarnation to have good mental health. But if you don't believe in reincarnation, what you would need is a trust in a greater plan. So a complete surrender into God or the divine plan for you, that there's meaning and purpose to your life and suffering. And if you can do that and you can just say, I just trust that there's a reason why, my son died and why I get to live and my child doesn't. And I trust in God. Beautiful. But if not, spirituality might be the place where we explore things like reincarnation and looking at, and if your barrier is your religious upbringing, then looking at the religion and trying to find where's the root. Was reincarnation a critical teaching of Christ? Was that something that the Catholic Church took out of Scripture? And then even during the Crusades, which is actually when Islam was formed, why it was not something that could have even been feasible to be taught in Islam, even if it was a truth, to be taught even openly. I believe it's in the Quran a lot, but even to be able to taught openly because of everyone was being murdered. that spoke of it. And even though many of the bishops that, so I think there's like 5,000 bishops. I probably shouldn't be quoting this book in front of me, but there was many people that were against taking reincarnation out of the teaching, the Christian teachings, many. And very few that were okay with it. And then that small group is the ones that made that big decision. So there is reason why we don't necessarily need to know about reincarnation. And sometimes it can become harmful. If you're fixated on what your past lives were and you're not living in this present moment, that's not helpful. I don't believe going to psychics and mediums is helpful, but just understanding that, there's a path, there's a plan, and there's more to it than just this lifetime. And that's what's going to bring you peace in those really critical times. Um, the other aspect that spirituality does and having spiritual beliefs is it emphasizes there's equality among all of us and there's a oneness. And you'll see this in the CBT and all of these lessons that you learn. So when I say we cannot attack ourselves and not self-harm or attack our others, we cannot attack others without attacking ourselves. There's this innate mirror that as I love myself, I will love others. As I see the innocence in myself, I will see the innocence in others. As I see the innocence in others, I will know it for myself. Our capacity to love and our capacity to attack and hate will always be mirrored because we're not separate. So as we do unto others, we will do to ourselves. As we do to others, we are doing to the whole. And this is how you can apply spirituality and then also these CBT concepts and the healed mind therapy concepts in a way that it's all cohesive. It's all cohesive. And this spirituality gives our purpose to our suffering. So all suffering is a blessing. It's like we're being held over a flame, and everything that's not healed of us, it needs to be burned off. And that's very painful. But at the end, we're left with the only thing that's really true is, that we're loved, that we're here, we have purpose, and our suffering has the purpose to transform us and help us to heal. And the truth is that there is nothing to fear. When you disidentify with the body as this is your identity, you stop needing it to be a certain way for you to be happy. You stop fearing life. You can live free. Now, that doesn't mean we're reckless. That doesn't mean that we're not taking care of the body, but we're not driven by fear. Even our decisions will not be driven by fear because we trust that there's something greater. We trust that there's a plan. And instead, we're going to make decisions based on love. And that includes healthy boundaries, but it's not going to be from a place of fear. Fear is what drives our anxiety. Fear is what drives our anger and our sadness, and the thoughts that we're not enough. And fear is delusion that we have to dispel, and spirituality helps with that. So trusting a greater plan, or trusting in God, or trusting in universal consciousness, whatever word you identify as resonating for you, trusting in that. And also understanding that we don't know what's in our own best interest. So, or other people. So when you have a child and they're struggling with a disability, or you see someone else that, is going through hardships in their life and you just want to rescue them, or, take maybe even enabling someone to avoid the consequences of their choices. What it's doing is saying, I know it's other people's best interest and I know what is my best interest. And it's one thing to do something from a place of love because that's from a place of flow. But when we don't trust that we don't know our own best interests, we'll often do things out of from a place of fear or self-sacrifice and overgiving. I need this person to be okay for me to be okay. This happens a lot with parents. I need my child to thrive for me to be okay. So I will overgive, I will over-explain, I will take care of them in a way that makes me feel more safe, but it actually doesn't help them in the long run. So being able to release that, and trust that there's a purpose to their suffering. There's a purpose to your suffering, and that is to evolve you. You are here to evolve. This is a playground. This is not our true nature. Your body is impermanent. It is not real. Okay. It is real in the sense that it is your learning and communication device for right now, and we should care for it so that we can learn all the lessons we need to, and for the time that we're here. We shouldn't cause destruction to the body, because then if we don't learn the lessons that we need to learn when we're here because our body fails earlier, then we're still going to have to learn those lessons. We're just going to have to keep suffering longer, and maybe even have to repeat some of the traumas we had if we don't complete what we're meant to learn in each life, if that makes sense. So if you're still with me at the end here, you're probably someone that's open to these concepts, and I encourage you to explore them a little bit further and just ask yourself, what do I believe? Why am I here? What is the purpose to my life and suffering? What is the purpose of, living as long as you do and then having a child live to the first year of life? How is their life equal to yours? Um, and when we have meaning to our lives and purpose to our life and suffering, this allows us to surrender and to trust that there is a greater plan. Everything's in your best interest. All things are blessings, even the suffering. And our job is to continue to heal and remember that we are love and that we only deserve love and that attack is never justified in any form and that we're all equal. There's nobody less than you. There's no one more than you. And this is the path to peace.